Chapter 241, Collect the Flowers and Retreat. Lyanna bent down to pick up the unusual bedeviled cornelia. Unlike the other flowers with pink petals, this one was about to turn red. This must be what Lord Alaric was talking about. Before their trip here, Alaric told them about the characteristics of the bedeviled cornelia. According to him, these flowers fed on the corpses of animals, monsters, or even humans. The more corpses they absorbed, the darker their color would become. Just when she thought that it was the only one, she saw a few more red flowers from the corner of her eyes. 1, 2, 3, there's more than 10 of them. She didn't expect to see many red flowers. Lord Alaric said that these flowers rarely turn red, unless the corpses they are absorbing come from a strong monster. I must report this to Sir Henry. She was about to approach Henry when the roar of a beast echoed across the mountaintop. She was startled and she unconsciously turned her head to the direction of the roar. That is, coming towards them was a huge monster. It looked like a tiger, but it had a significantly larger frame. Its fur was also black like that of charcoal. That is a purple-eyed black tiger. This particular beast was a disaster-grade monster, but it was far stronger than the alpha white-tailed desolate dog that Henry had defeated earlier. This monster was a true predator. Roar! The beast issued a warning sound as it slowly approached them. Just then, another roar drifted into their ears. This time, it came from a separate direction. Lyanna turned her head and saw a monster that looked like a giant anaconda. A disaster-grade gold-spotted white anaconda. She could vaguely sense its power from the terrifying aura it exuded. It was a beast that could trample them with a swing of its tail. The only reason it didn't attack was because of Henry and the purple-eyed black tiger. Make it quick! Henry shouted while keeping his eyes on the two monsters. He was starting to get nervous. He never thought that the bedeviled Cornelius would actually attract so many powerful monsters the moment they bloomed. Other than these two monsters, there were still more coming towards them. Although not as powerful as the two beasts, their numbers were in the hundreds. This is getting out of control. What should we do? Henry narrowed his eyes. One wrong command and people might be killed. He didn't want that to happen, so he tried to come up with a plan to escape this situation. Sir Henry. At this moment, he suddenly heard someone calling him. It was Lyanna. She jogged towards him with a look of urgency and said, Sir Henry, there is a path that we can use. It is a narrow path between two big boulders so those monsters won't be able to follow us. Hearing this, Henry's eyes lit up. Where is it? I will lead the way, sir. Lyanna responded. All right. Henry nodded his head. He then barked out to his subordinates. Everyone, it's time to retreat. Follow Miss Lyanna. I will hold back those monsters. There was no other way. He had to stop those monsters from following the group to prevent casualties and to ensure that the harvested bedeviled Cornelius wouldn't be damaged. Lyanna didn't hesitate. She rushed downhill toward the secret path. The footwork she had trained from all the years of climbing the mountains revealed its usefulness. She expertly traveled down the jagged terrain. In addition to her adrenaline rush, she realized that she was moving faster than her usual speed. We are almost there, everyone. Be careful of the sharp rocks. She reminded them as she cut down the shrubbery that blocked their path. Meanwhile, Henry had already engaged with the two disaster-grade monsters. The collisions of their battle caused violent explosions and powerful shockwaves that caused the mountain to rumble. One warrior stumbled and fell due to the shaking of the ground, but his comrades quickly helped him up. Stay focused. The road gets more dangerous here. Lyanna shouted. With the intense battle between Henry and the two monsters, she was afraid that the giant boulders would collapse on them. Everyone nervously followed her through the tight pathway. Every time the ground shook, they would instinctively whisper Aru's name. Please protect us, Aru. Just then, cracks started appearing on the surface of the boulders, making everyone even more nervous. Almost there. Lyanna gritted her teeth as she increased her speed. In the next moment, she had finally stepped out of the ravine. She looked around and realized that there were no monsters nearby. This made her feel relieved. One by one, the warriors stepped out of the ravine. All of them looked pale, and there were even a few of them with cuts on their heads after being struck by sharp falling rocks. "Is everyone out?" she asked while making a quick head count. "Everyone is here, my lady," Rollins reported after checking on his subordinates. Aldrin also nodded and told her that everyone was fine. Suddenly, the two hill-like boulders behind them collapsed, causing a cloud of dust to spread. Luckily, everyone was quite far from the boulders, so they were unharmed. If we had been a second late, some of us would have died. Lyanna felt a chill. "Team leader Lyanna, I think we have company and they are not monsters." Aldrin's voice drifted into her ears. Lyanna frowned and turned her head. She could sense the auras of more than 20 people coming towards them. A moment later, the other group appeared. "Father?" "No. Justin Gillings." Lyanna's face turned cold when she saw the leader of the opposing party. It was none other than her father, the head of House Gillings. "Oh my?" Justin Gillings raised his eyebrows in surprise. He was a middle-aged man with a sunken face. He had dark bags under his eyes, which was caused by sleep deprivation. He didn't expect to see his eldest daughter here. "Lyanna?" Chapter 242, The Biggest Slave Trader in Harrow. "My lord, there was a commotion here earlier. They must have gotten some sort of treasured elixir." A knight whispered to Justin's ears. Hearing this, Justin furrowed his eyebrows. What should I do to make them cough up what they had taken from this mountain? For it to cause such commotion, that elixir must be very valuable. A look of greed flashed in his eyes. "Whatever it is, I must get it." Thinking about this, he opened his mouth with a look of regret and remorse. "Lyanna, I have been looking for you and your sister all this time. I must have been out of my mind when I made that decision back then. I missed you girls so much. Why don't you return home with me?" Aldrin and the others quietly watched Lyanna. They wanted to see how she would react to this situation. From the little information they knew about her, they were aware that she and her younger sister had been abandoned by their father. Would she forgive this man, or would she sever their ties? "Do you think I will fall for your lies? I know what kind of bastard you are. You must be after the elixirs we got from the mountain." Lyanna sneered. She was disgusted by her father's actions. Justin's face twitched at her accusation. With a wronged face, he replied. "How could you say something like that, Lyanna? Do you think dash? Enough with your nonsense. I'm sick of your blatant lies. You should be ashamed." Lyanna shouted with an angry look on her face. "You!" Justin was stunned. "Scram if you don't want to die. This is the last mercy I will give you." Lyanna's cold voice drifted into his ears. Justin's face darkened. He wanted to confront them, but he could sense that the people she was with were formidable. He held back his greed and let out an awkward laugh as he commanded his subordinates to retreat. "Let's go back, everyone. I might not be able to take care of you here, but things will be different in the city." Justin thought with narrowed his eyes. After they left, Lyanna heaved a sigh of relief. "My lady. I mean team leader, I don't think that bastard will give up on the elixirs." Rollins whispered, his voice shaking with anger. "I know." Lyanna knew her father's personality so well. "We should get going. The monsters are coming soon," Aldrin reminded them. The group no longer lingered and headed down the mountain. Meanwhile, the battle between Henry and the two disaster-grade monsters was still raging on. "I should find a way to retreat. Now that the others have retreated, there is no longer any merit in fighting these two monsters." With this in his mind, Henry silently gathered mana into his legs to prepare for his eventual escape. The two beasts didn't sense anything amiss and continued their fierce battle. The area around them was already a mess with toppled trees and large rubble everywhere. Henry waited for the perfect opportunity, and when he noticed that both monsters had relaxed their guards, he retreated without hesitation. Damn it. Who would have thought that we would actually encounter those damn beasts on this mountain? Fighting with those two ferocious monsters left injuries all over his body. If they were ordinary disaster-grade monsters, he would have the means to defeat them. Unfortunately, both creatures were far from ordinary. Roar. He could already hear the furious roars of the beasts behind him, but Henry didn't look back. He imbued more mana into his legs to increase his speed. Whoosh. His figure turned into a blur and disappeared, leaving the two monsters furious. I think it won't be a good idea to enter the city. Rollins had a bad feeling. His suspicion started when he saw his former lord retreat without saying a word. Knowing what kind of man Justin was, Rollins was certain that he would leave a trap for them in the city. In that case, we should make a detour, Rigger suggested. What about Sir Henry? Lyanna asked. I will leave secret marks along the way for Sir Henry to follow, Rigger responded indifferently. All right then. After making that decision, the group took a detour around the city. Looking at everyone's gloomy faces, Lyanna felt that it was her fault that they had to go through this much trouble. Rollins was the first to notice this, so he consoled her. This isn't your fault, team leader. Lyanna merely shook her head and sighed. The group traveled through the woods while keeping themselves out of sight. They traveled for a few hours, but they had to stop since the sky had darkened. We should rest here, Rigger suggested with a serious look. There were some ordinary warriors in the group and they were already exhausted after several hours of running non-stop. The group didn't set up camp to avoid being detected. Instead, they climbed on top of the tall trees and rested on the thick branches. With the big leaves covering them, it was highly unlikely for someone to discover them. However, they soon realized that it was a big mistake. 15 minutes later, the sounds of dogs barking reached their ears. This is bad. They brought tracking dogs with them. Lyanna alerted the group the moment she heard the noise. The group didn't hesitate. They climbed down the trees and escaped in the opposite direction of the sound. Wait. We have been surrounded. Rigger's face fell when he sensed the powerful auras ahead of them. Everyone looked sullen after realizing the situation. They had been sandwiched, leaving no room for them to escape. Rigger frowned as he silently calculated their best options, but he found himself unable to think properly. Damn it. Arf. Arf. Sir Fabian, didn't I tell you that we can find them here? Don't forget the promise you made. Haha. Haha. Of course. If it as you say, I will write off your debts. It's him. Lyanna recognized her father's flattering voice. In the next moment, they finally saw their pursuers. They recognized Justin's party, but there was another group that came along with them. Furthermore, they brought formidable warriors and knights. Look what we have here. The one who had spoken was the fat man standing beside Justin. He was dressed in luxurious clothes and he wore thick gold chains around his neck. The fat man ignored the others and focused his attention on Lyanna. He didn't even bother to conceal the lust on his face. Miss Lyanna, we meet again. Lyanna frowned when she saw this greasy man. Fabian. This man was one of the biggest slave traders in Harrow. His wealth was so enormous that even minor nobles were afraid of him. Aldrin and the other warriors immediately surrounded Lyanna while keeping their hands on the handle of their weapons. Seeing this, Fabian frowned. Do you guys not know who I am? Surrender and I will consider sparing your worthless lives. He shouted, his voice filled with arrogance and disdain. Hearing this, Rigger and the others were furious. To think that an elite knight would actually serve someone like this. Rigger thought to himself as he looked at the warrior standing close to Fabian. He could sense an overwhelming pressure coming from this man. How dare you stop the warriors of House Silversword? Rigger decided to use the household's name to scare the enemies, but contrary to his expectations, Fabian sneered in contempt. Justin laughed and shouted in a mocking tone. Do you think you can fool us? How dare you impersonate the warriors of House Silversword? Are you tired of living? Enough. Fabian took a step forward while keeping his eyes on Lyanna. How about we make a deal? Take out the elixirs you found in the mountain and follow us quietly. Rigger and the others almost failed to hold back their rage when they saw Fabian's perverted face. Bastard, you will pay for this. Rigger muttered through gritted teeth. Fabian lost his patience when he saw that his words were not treated seriously. With a cold face, he shouted. Capture them. Make sure that the elixirs will not be damaged and don't injure Lyanna's pretty face. Upon hearing his commands, his subordinates immediately unsheathed their weapons and pounced towards Aldrin's group. Do not falter. Show these fools the strength of House Silversword, shouted Rigger as he raised his weapon in midair. In the next moment, a fierce clash erupted between the two sides. No one held the upper hand in the initial round, but Rigger's group gradually gained the upper hand because of their synchronized formation. Seeing this, Fabian and Justin were stunned. They outnumbered them, but they were actually on the losing end. It was unbelievable. Are they really from House Silversword? Fabian began to hesitate. Although he was powerful in Harrow, he was just an ant compared to House Silversword. Who cares? I just need to kill them all. Chapter 243, Henry makes a deal with the enemy. As long as I kill all the witnesses, no one would know what happened. Even if by chance they found out the truth, I have the perfect scapegoat here. Thinking about this, Fabian glanced at Justin Gillings, who was watching the battle next to him. Sir Fabian, I think you need to send Sir Vaughn now, Justin whispered with a nervous tone. His subordinates were also in the battle and a few of them had already died. He couldn't afford to suffer any more losses. Fabian snorted. You don't need to tell me. He then beckoned to the warrior standing behind him. It was a one-eyed bald man with tan skin. He was holding a flail, a weapon rarely used by warriors because of how difficult it was to use. To master this weapon, one needed months to even years of effort. What are your orders, sir? The elite knight named Vaughn asked with his head lowered. Except the girl, kill the rest of those people. Fabian commanded. The elite knight hesitated. This was because he recognized the insignia on the warrior's clothes. It was the famous insignia of House Silversword. Sir, those people are from House Silversword. Are you certain about this? Fabian raised an eyebrow and glared at him. Are you questioning me? Vaughn sighed and shook his head. No, my lord. I'll do as you say. He didn't want to work for this man, but because of his family's tough financial situation, he had no choice. Aru, I might commit a grave sin this time. I won't ask for your forgiveness since I don't deserve it, but I hope that you will look after my family. After making this prayer, Vaughn hardened his heart. He looked around and searched for a target. The one who had caught his eye was the young warrior wielding a spear. He was fast and agile with superior mastery of the spear. He was currently fighting two knights all by himself, but he still had the upper hand. Vaughn locked his eyes on his target and rushed in with heavy strides. He raised his flail in preparation for an attack, but before he could brandish his weapon, he suddenly felt a sense of danger above him. An assassin? He quickly twisted his body to the right when he felt the killing intent from above. In that instant, he heard the air produce a sharp, piercing sound. Whoosh! Bang! Oh! You dodged that? A calm voice drifted into Vaughn's ears. He turned his head and stared at the warrior in front of him. It was an old warrior wielding a sword. His aura was not as strong as his own, but for some reason, he felt that the old man was more powerful than him. This strange feeling made him frown. I am Henry, an elite knight and a company commander in House Silversword. State your name, warrior. The old man introduced himself indifferently. Hearing this, Vaughn was stunned. Henry was a common name, but there was only one Henry in House Silversword. He had gained some fame after the orc subjugation event. He might not be as famous as the Transcendent Knights, but he was regarded as one of the most powerful elite knights in the north. The one thing that was scary about him was his swordsmanship. He had trained it to a level that ordinary swordsmen could only hope to achieve. Vaughn uttered his name. He had no permanent affiliation. He was just a mercenary, a warrior who would do anything for money. Henry noticed the surprise on the man's face as soon he revealed his name. You still have time to stop this, my friend. You don't look like you are affiliated with that man. Why don't you step aside? I promise that House Silversword will not hurt you. If this man joined the battle, he wouldn't have the energy to help the others. This man's aura isn't any weaker than Fredrin's. Fighting him will be dangerous, especially in this kind of situation. Vaughn furrowed his eyebrows. Henry's words made him falter, but thinking about his sick daughter and his pregnant wife, he shook his head. I'm sorry, but I need the money. Money? Henry smiled. I can give you the double the amount he promised. How does that sound? This time, Vaughn finally lowered his weapon. He was dumbfounded. His enemy was actually trying to make a deal with him mid-battle. Double? Do you even know how much they paid me? Vaughn narrowed his eyes. Surprise me. Henry nonchalantly replied. If this was a year ago, he would never dare say this, but things were different now. House Silversword was no longer struggling financially. 5,000 gold coins for 10 years of my service. To a mercenary like Vaughn, this was already a huge amount of money. He would never make this much by merely doing escort jobs, so despite the notoriety of the client, he readily accepted the offer. Henry nodded with a faint smile. All right. I promise you that you will get at least 10,000 gold coins if you join our side. Vaughn was stunned. Before he could respond, he heard Fabian's furious outburst. Vaughn, what are you doing, you idiot? Don't just stand there, you fool. Kill them all. Vaughn ignored his words and silently contemplated his choices. Accepting the old warrior's offer carried some risk. He might be lying, or he could also deny his promise after the battle would end. However, if it turned out to be true, he would get enough money to hire a skilled doctor for his daughter, and he would still have extra money for his children's future. Depending on your performance, I might recommend you to Lord Alaric to become a part of our army, Henry added. Those words were the final nail in the coffin. Vaughn no longer hesitated. He stared deeply at Henry and said, I hope you fulfill your promise. He then turned around and joined the battle, but his targets were Fabian and Justin's subordinates. Chapter 244, I will storm House Silversword's estate if you don't return with the money you promised. When Fabian saw Vaughn attacking his comrades, he was shocked. That bastard, what is he doing? Justin was also surprised. He didn't expect the polite and honest Vaughn to betray them at the last second. Vaughn, what the hell are you doing? Fabian bellowed, but his words fell on deaf ears. Vaughn had already started his attack. He didn't use his flail since he knew these people. He just used his physical strength to knock everyone out. Seeing this, Henry was relieved. He didn't even need to intervene since Vaughn was doing a great job in dealing with the situation. Good thing my persuasion worked, but 5,000 gold coins? The price isn't cheap. He might be earning more now, but this amount of money was still a lot for him. Soon, all the warriors under Fabian and Justin had been taken care of. Wait. Don't come closer. Fabian shouted nervously when he saw Henry approaching him. This is a misunderstanding. This despicable man forced me into this. I would never harm my own daughter. Justin explained himself, his face full of sweat. Henry raised an eyebrow when he heard this. He just arrived, so he didn't know the situation. What is going on here, Miss Lyanna? He looked at the only woman in the crowd with a face full of confusion. Sir Henry, that person is my father, but we have already severed our connection with him the moment he sold us to those slave traders. Lyanna replied without even sparing Justin a glance. Realization dawned on Henry. I see. He moved his gaze back to Justin and said, his eyes filled with unconcealed contempt. So you are the father who sold his daughters to pay off his gambling debts. It's just a misunderstanding, sir. Please allow me to explain myself. There is a deep dash. Pa. Justin's world suddenly spun and he felt a sharp, stinging sensation on his face. With a face full of fear, he looked at the old warrior in front of him. C dash. He couldn't even finish his words when another slap came his way. Pa. Henry wasn't satisfied, so he sent more slaps until Justin's face was no longer recognizable. Pa. 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 Justin collapsed to the ground. His face looked like it had been bitten by 1,000 bees. He wanted to say something, but he found himself unable to properly say a word. Yam Shori. He put on the most pitiful face he had ever shown to someone, but Henry remained unmoved. The old warrior bent down and raised his hand. Pa. This time, Justin passed out. With a scornful expression, Henry spat a mouthful of saliva on the man's face. Tui. You're the only one left, pig. Henry muttered as he turned his gaze toward Fabian, who was slowly moving backwards. Seeing the old warrior's cold eyes, Fabian's knees almost buckled. Sir, let's talk this out. Henry sneered. You were so gutsy when you ordered your men to attack the warriors of House Silversword. He walked towards Fabian, but before he could take another step, he felt a hand pressing on his shoulder. HM. Please let me deal with him. You see, I have a grudge to settle with that person. Vaughn muttered. Hearing this, Henry grinned. He is all yours. Thank you. After expressing his gratitude, Vaughn walked towards Fabian with steady footsteps. Each step he took made Fabian feel uneasy. Wait. Sir Vaughn, I will give you the money. You need money, right? I can give you as much as you want. He forced out a smile as he tried to negotiate his way out of the situation. It's too late for that. Vaughn raised his flail and swung it. Whoosh. PHKKK. The spiky striking head of his flail struck Fabian's face, causing it to cave in from the impact. When he pulled the striking head, Fabian stumbled and fell to the ground with a thud. Looking at the slave trader's twitching body, Vaughn muttered under his breath. That was oddly satisfying. I should have done that from the start. At this moment, he felt someone tapping on his shoulder. You made a wise decision, my friend. Don't worry, I will fulfill my promise. Vaughn stared at the old warrior and asked. Are you leaving now? Henry nodded. Yes. There was no reason for them to linger. The officials and the city guards will be here soon, so they had to leave immediately. You have to follow us back to North Pine Town if you want to get your money, Henry added. Vaughn shook his head. I can't leave now. My daughter is sick and my wife is pregnant. I see. Now I understand why he is willing to work for such person. He has it tough too. Henry didn't respond for a long while. Since you can't come with us, how about this? I will leave a few of our people to you. Once we return to the estate, I will send a team of skilled doctors to take care of your family. Of course, the money I promised you will also be delivered at that time. Vaughn thought for a moment. Is he planning to monitor my movements? Well, it doesn't matter. I have nothing to hide anyway. And if the people he sends lay a hand on my family, I'm confident that I can kill them. With this in his mind, he no longer hesitated. All right. Henry summoned a few warriors including Rigger. He specifically chose this guy to stay with Vaughn since he was a former mercenary. He also had enough strength to escape if the situation became unfavorable. Stay here with Vaughn and make sure that his family is protected. Communicate with me using messenger birds. The old warrior instructed. Yes, sir. Henry gave them a few more instructions before he turned his gaze back to Vaughn. My friend, we still have things to do, so I'm afraid I can't stay here for long. I hope we meet again soon. I hope you return with the money you promised. Otherwise, I will storm House Silversword's estate even if it kills me. Vaughn responded. Chapter 245, 2 Urgent Reports. After removing all traces of battle, everyone went their separate ways. Sir, can we really trust that person? Aldrin asked with a worried look. He couldn't bring himself to trust Vaughn no matter how hard he tried. Henry grinned and shook his head. Of course not. Why would I trust someone we just met? Hearing this, Aldrin was dumbfounded. Then why did you send Sir Rigger and the others with him? We don't know what he might do. Henry glanced at him and smiled. He didn't answer him and asked a question instead. Among the knights in the household, who is the strongest? Aldrin furrowed his eyebrows, but he still responded truthfully. It's Sir Rigger. Right. Rigger is the most powerful knight of House Silversword. Even in the north, there are only 2 or 3 knights who are on the same level if not stronger than him. Henry shook his head. His words displayed the confidence he had in Rigger's ability. He tapped Aldrin's shoulder and added. Don't worry about him. Rigger can protect himself. The kids I sent with him aren't pushovers either. Aldrin no longer said anything after hearing this. Vaughn, that man, I can sense the desperation in his eyes. That was the desperation of a father and a husband. A man who worries about his family. I hope I made the right decision. Henry thought to himself. Meanwhile, in the main mansion of House Silversword, the servants were busy moving the decorations they had prepared for Alaric's wedding ceremony. These decorations were specially designed for the occasion, and it was Maria who had ordered them. She wanted the best for her son, so she didn't hesitate to use the money they had earned from their recent business ventures. At this moment, Maria was instructing the servants in the main hall. Be careful. Some of those items are made of fragile materials. She reminded the servants. Yes, my lady. The servants responded. These items were to be delivered to the wedding venue, which was a newly constructed building within the estate. Everyone moved with caution, ensuring that the items would be delivered without any damage. My lady, why are you doing this yourself? Didn't I tell you to rest? You are with child, so you should not overdo yourself. A voice filled with concern echoed through the main hall. Maria lifted her head and saw her son walking down the staircase in a hurry. Seeing him, she let out a loving smile and said, Good morning, my son. How was your sleep? Alaric sighed as he approached his mother. He looked around, and when he noticed that the servants were busy, he leaned forward and whispered. Mom, you should get some rest first. I will handle everything here. I cannot let you do all these troublesome things. Maria shook her head with a faint smile. It is not troublesome. I love doing this since it is for your wedding. Do not worry about me, son. I am taking care of myself well. Besides, there are doctors and nurses at my side who are doing their best to keep me healthy. The doctors also told me that I need some physical activities, so it will not be difficult for me during delivery. She added. Alaric could only shake his head with a defeated look. Fine, but you must rest after lunch. I will. Maria chuckled. The mother and son chatted briefly before Alaric stepped out of the main mansion to head to the training grounds. Alaric Silversword, Elite Knight, EXP, 219/1000. Potential, A. Traits, Horseback Riding, C. Swordsmanship, SSS, Close Combat, C. Archery, E. Hunting, E. Tracking, E. Sixth Sense, E. Monster Affinity, F. Mana Gathering, C. Appraisal, B. Strength, 170. Stamina, 180. Agility, 180. Vitality, 150. Endurance, 160. Mana, 235, 240. Battle points, 3460. Stat points, 117. Requirements for the next advancement, 1000 EXP, 250 in all attributes, and 10,000 battle points. He couldn't find the time to do his daily missions, so there was no increase in his attributes other than his mana. While he was performing his weighted exercises, a warrior suddenly came to deliver a report, so he had to take a short pause. I apologize for disturbing you, my lord. I just want to inform you that the assassins have already been taken care of. The warrior reported in a whispering voice to make sure that only Alaric could hear him. Hearing this, Alaric remained unperturbed. Oh. No one saw you guys, right? He casually asked. The warrior shook his head. Sir Butch personally handled their execution, and we made sure that no one was nearby. By now, their bodies should be rotting in the soil. Good. Alaric nodded. How could he show mercy to the assassins who had tried to kill Hershey? The only reason he allowed them to live a few days longer was to make them believe that he would let go of them. Just imagining the despair in their eyes as they were slowly dying made him thrilled. The warrior shivered upon seeing Alaric smile. Alaric sent him a look and warned him with a stern gaze. No one must know about this. Do you understand? Yes, my lord. The warrior nodded. You may go. I still have to continue my training. Alaric waved his hand, signaling for him to leave. The warrior no longer dallied and left right away. After the warrior left, Alaric resumed his weighted exercises. He was just about to proceed with his sword training when another urgent report came. What is it this time? Alaric frowned as he took the letter from the messenger. When he unrolled the letter and saw that it was from Warwick, his expression changed. After Vivian's execution, Alaric sent Warwick and Fredrin to Copperglade to protect his grandfather from House Harrison. Alaric thought that nothing would happen to his grandfather with those two protecting him, but he had underestimated the recklessness of the enemies. Those bastards actually attempted to kidnap my grandfather. Alaric's eyes burned with fury. Chapter 246, Gallagher's Attributes. Alaric was in a foul mood, but he gritted his teeth and resumed his exercises. 1000 mana-infused vertical slashes ballot box with check. 1000 mana-infused horizontal slashes ballot box with check. 1000 mana-infused diagonal slashes ballot box with check. 1000 mana-infused stabs ballot box with check. After doing all his sword exercises, he finally received a series of notifications from the system. You received 20 battle points. You received 3 EXP. You received 3 stat points. Alaric checked his attributes and noticed that he already had 120 unallocated stat points. What should I do about this? Should I distribute them now? Alaric hesitated for a moment, but he eventually decided to distribute his stat points evenly to keep his attributes balanced. Alaric Silversword, Elite Knight, EXP, 219, 222/1000. Potential, A. Traits, Horseback Riding, C. Swordsmanship, SSS, Close Combat, C. Archery, E. Hunting, E. Tracking, E. Sixth Sense, E. Monster Affinity, F. Mana Gathering, C. Appraisal, B. Strength, 170, 200. Stamina, 180, 200. Agility, 180, 200. Vitality, 150, 175. Endurance, 160, 185. Mana, 240, 241. Battle points, 3,460, 3480. Stat points, 120, 0. Requirements for the next advancement, 1000 EXP, 250 in all attributes, and 10,000 battle points. Now, other than his vitality and endurance, all his attributes had already reached 200 points. I am close to maxing out my attributes, but I am still far from reaching the required EXP and battle points. I need to find time to do my daily missions from now on. Otherwise, it would take me a long time before I advance to the next realm. For some, the elite knight realm might sound powerful, but Alaric knew that experts at this level could barely do anything in large-scale warfare. He had experienced it in his past life. To prevent things from going in that direction, he needed to become a transcendent knight at the very least. Alaric removed the stray thoughts from his mind. He didn't leave the training grounds right away. Now, it is time to deal with those bastards from House Harrison. Thinking about this, he summoned Galliner and 100 more warriors. My lord, what are your orders? Galliner cupped his fists respectfully. Alaric didn't respond immediately. He stared at him and the 100 warriors gathered before him. Using his appraisal trait, he inspected their attributes one by one. They had become more powerful after absorbing all the resources we got from the elves. Galliner's attributes. Galliner's attributes made him dumbfounded. Galliner, Transcendent Knight, EXP, 391/5000. Potential, S. Traits, Indomitable Will, SS, Swordsmanship, S, Close Combat, S, Horseback Riding, S, Pain Tolerance, S, Hunting, S, Tracking, A, Archery, B, Danger Perception, B, Intuition, C. Strength, 402. Stamina, 201. Agility, 275. Vitality, 405. Endurance, 500. Mana, 250. His raw attributes alone were far more impressive than Rosalie's, even though he had only recently advanced to the realm of transcendence. Alaric couldn't begin to imagine the extent of Galliner's growth. SS-Rank Indomitable Will. Alaric was speechless. Other than this crazy trait, most of his traits were also S-Rank. He gathered his thoughts and opened his mouth. I received a report from Sir Warwick. According to him, House Harrison destroyed my grandfather's caravan in Copper Glade, and those bastards also attempted to kidnap him. Hearing this, everyone's faces darkened. They were aware that Alaric's maternal grandfather was in Copper Glade. Laying a hand on him was no different than offending the entire House Silversword. I want you to attack House Harrison's estate and bring their family head here. Kill everyone who resists. Alaric shouted, his voice shaking with fury. He wanted to eradicate the entire House Harrison, but doing so would only attract the attention of the imperial family. Furthermore, House Harrison was backed by the second prince. If I only target Darvin Harrison and the main family members, the second prince would not be able to say anything since I have a legitimate reason to attack them. Alaric thought to himself. I have received your orders, my lord. Galliner acknowledged his command with a snappy salute. Very well. Prepare your equipment and supplies. You must depart at once. Alaric waved his hand, dismissing the entire crowd. Upon getting his signal, the crowd quickly dispersed. ____. Mission, execute the arrogant family head of House Harrison. Mission difficulty, hard. Darvin Harrison commanded the capture of your maternal grandfather, but he had failed. However, he still hadn't given up on this plan. To stop his vile acts, you must capture him and have him executed. Rewards, 1000 battle points, 50 EXP, random trait upgrade card X1, rare weapon card X1. ____. HM. Alaric wasn't surprised by the mission notification, but because of the difficulty. Why is it a hard difficulty mission? He furrowed his eyebrows, feeling slightly perturbed. Did they ask for support from their allies? This was the only possibility he could think of. House Harrison only had one transcendent, an expert ranked 18th in the Estanian Dragon leaderboard. A single transcendent shouldn't be enough to make the mission difficulty hard. This means that they managed to ask at least one more transcendent to help them. It does not matter. Warwick and Galliner should be able to handle them. He had confidence in their skills, especially Galliner. The man is a force of nature in the literal sense. Alaric chuckled. He believed that Galliner's power was already equivalent to the experts in the top 10 of the Estanian Dragon leaderboard. In Lucas' study, the Baron also received a report about the situation in Copperglade. He didn't give much of a reaction, for he was already aware that Warwick was there to protect Anton Keller. "Should we send our troops to support Sir Warwick and House Keller, my lord?" Lucas leaned on his seat. "You said that Alaric will send Galliner and 100 warriors to Copperglade, right?" "Yes, my lord." Hearing his confirmation, Lucas shook his head. "Then there is no need to send additional manpower. Galliner alone will be enough to handle House Harrison and their allies." The messenger was stunned by his words. "But my lord, they have 4 transcendents on their side, including Sir Treston." Lucas gave the messenger a stern look and waved his hand dismissively. "Just do as I say." "Yes, my lord." Chapter 247, House Keller. In Copperglade, there was a middle-sized district called Lanila. It was named after a famous warrioress in ancient history. In this district, House Keller held the most sway, whether in terms of political power or wealth. However, this powerful merchant family was currently facing a major crisis. At this moment, inside the meeting hall of House Keller, there was a heated debate over the recent incident. "My lord, is there still no news from House Silversword?" one of the family's elders asked in a solemn tone. "I'm afraid that all our messenger birds have been caught by those bastards," another one remarked with a gloomy face. Hearing this, everyone fell silent. A few days ago, House Harrison started harassing the business establishments they owned. They used all sorts of excuses to cause trouble, which caused their businesses significant losses. Both houses have been at odds for many years, so this wasn't new to them, but House Harrison had become excessive recently. They went as far as destroying their family head's caravan, and they even attempted to kidnap him. Luckily, the warriors sent by House Silversword protected Anton Keller and his subordinates in time. Otherwise, things would have ended terribly. Looking at the anxious faces of his family and subordinates, Anton Keller sighed. "I have already sent a few letters to House Silversword, but they haven't responded yet. It seems like House Harrison intercepted the messages I sent." Anton Keller's face fell as he said those words. He had lost a lot of weight in the past few days. He tried to remain calm to put everyone at ease, but he was nearing his limits. "At this rate, all the hard-earned wealth I had accumulated might be taken away by those bastards. I can't believe they would attack us all of a sudden." Knock. 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 In the midst of the meeting, a series of knocks on the door drifted into everyone's ears. Anton Keller raised an eyebrow and gestured at the guards to open the door. A messenger entered with an excited look on his face. "My lord, I have urgent news. House Silversword has sent a response." Hearing this, everyone was pleasantly surprised. "Quick! Bring the letter here." Anton Keller beckoned at the messenger. The messenger didn't dally and handed him the letter. It was still sealed with House Silversword's unique stamp intact. Anton Keller carefully unrolled the letter under everyone's curious eyes. The old man's depressed face lit up when he read the contents of the letter. His face relaxed as he let out a joyful laugh. "Good. Good. What did they say, my lord?" someone asked, unable to hold back his curiosity. Anton Keller put down the letter and grinned as he replied. "It is a letter from my grandson, Alaric. He said that he would send Sir Galliner and 100 warriors here. We're saved." "Great. Oh my God. Lord Alaric actually sent Sir Galliner to help us." Galliner was no longer the unknown warrior that he was before. After the orc subjugation, his name had become famous and many people even wanted him to confirm his rank in the Estanian Dragon leaderboard. "I heard that Sir Galliner can fight multiple transcendents all by himself. I wonder if that is true." The gloomy atmosphere was swept away with just a single letter. Anton Keller was also relieved, and he felt like a heavy boulder had been lifted off his chest. "When will they arrive, my lord?" someone asked. Anton rubbed his chin as he replied. "It wasn't specified in the letter, but I estimate that they would be here within 7 days if there are no accidents on the road." He moved his gaze toward the quiet warrior seated next to him. "What do you think, Sir Warwick?" Everyone became silent as they looked at him. Just like Galliner, Warwick was also a famous figure in the north. Although not as impressive as the former, Warwick was a skilled transcendent knight. His very presence was the sole reason why House Keller was able to survive the harassment of House Harrison. Warwick was already aware that Galliner was coming since he was the first one to receive a letter from Alaric. With a calm look on his face, he replied, "As long as Sir Galliner is here, we don't need to worry about our enemies, but it might take them about 4 to 7 days to get here. While waiting for them, we must increase our defenses and temporarily stop our business operations." Anton Keller nodded in agreement. "Increasing our defenses is natural, but if we stop our business operations, we will face significant financial losses. We might even lose our important clients' trust." An elder voiced out his worries. Warwick sent him an indifferent look and responded, "I understand your concern, but our safety is more important now. We can earn back the money, but we can't be revived if we get ourselves killed." Anton Keller nodded. "I agree with Sir Warwick. Our lives are more important, so we must temporarily stop our business operations. We should focus on protecting our people." With the family head's firm decision, no one objected anymore. The meeting also concluded soon afterward. A moment later, only Anton remained inside the spacious room. Looking at the empty seats, he shook his head and sighed. "This must be my punishment." He leaned on his seat and rubbed his temples. "I prioritized the family's business instead of visiting my grandson and daughter. I didn't even join my son-in-law's birthday celebration. What a pathetic man I have become." His voice was filled with self-reproach. He then grabbed his necklace, which depicted the symbol of Aru, the sun. "Aru, if we overcome this ordeal, I promise that I will be a better father and grandfather." His voice echoed in the quiet meeting hall. After saying his prayers, the old man stood up and left the room. "I have many things to prepare from here on out." Chapter 248, Darvin Harrison's Hesitation. Meanwhile, in the main mansion of House Harrison, the situation wasn't any different. They were also in a heated discussion over the failed kidnapping attempt on Anton Keller. What about the second prince's side? Was there any reaction from them? Darvin asked while trying to contain his rage. "His Highness didn't respond to our letters, my lord. We did get some responses from the houses in the central region, but they didn't give us a favorable answer." Someone replied with a face full of sweat. Because of the recent failure, Darvin was in a bad mood and no one wanted to be on the receiving end of his fury. Darvin gritted his teeth. "After making use of us, those people are now planning to abandon my House Harrison? This is unacceptable." He took a deep breath and closed his eyes for a moment. "Luckily, we managed to get the support of 5 northern households. We got 3 transcendents from them, which makes it a total of 4 if we include Treston. Will this be enough to fight House Silversword?" His head began to hurt the more he thought about the situation. If only we didn't fail to get Anton Keller. We could have used him as leverage to get some compensation from House Silversword. Damn it. His plans fell through and it had come to bite him in the ass. Why don't we apologize and return everything that we seized from them? It's not too late to reconcile with them, my lord. The one who had spoken was an old warrior who looked to be in his 60s. He was wearing steel battle armor with the insignia of House Harrison imprinted on his breastplate. "I am friends with William. They might listen to me if we sincerely apologize," the old warrior added. This man was none other than Treston, a formidable warrior in the transcendent realm. He had short white hair and a pair of sword-like eyebrows. Despite his old age, his gaze still looked sharp and full of energy. Many people frowned upon hearing his opinion. The one who showed the most reaction was Richard Harrison, the eldest son of Darvin and the heir of the household. "Sir Treston, how could you give such a foolish suggestion?" Richard slammed his hand on the table, his voice trembling with fury. "Those people killed my sister. And you want us to apologize to them?" The others were too scared to butt in, and they could only watch the heated argument unfold. "That is enough, Richard. Do you not know who are you speaking to? Apologize to Sir Tristan at once." Darvin roared at his son with a dark look. Hearing his father's furious voice, Richard could only swallow the words he was about to say. He then cupped his fists and reluctantly apologized to the old warrior. "I misspoke. Please forgive me, Sir Tristan." His apology lacked sincerity, and it was obvious that he only did it to appease his father. However, no one said anything. On the other hand, Tristan was very disappointed. He has been faithful and loyal to House Harrison due to his friendship with Darvin, but the household has become more rampant and ambitious in the past few years. He had repeatedly warned them not to overuse their authority to oppress the people, but they had ignored his warnings. He was also against the kidnapping of Anton Keller, but Darvin had already made up his mind at that time. He felt that the best solution now was to apologize to House Keller and House Silversword. Otherwise, a big battle might occur. This was something that he didn't wish to see, for only the people would suffer. Darvin was forced to conclude the meeting when he noticed that the atmosphere was getting more tense. The household might be divided if he forced the meeting to continue. Damn! If only that idiot son of mine did his job well, things would not have ended this way. Darvin almost had a heart attack the more he thought about it. Should I follow Sir Tristan's advice? He hesitated. In truth, he was afraid of House Silversword's power. The reason why he dared to send people to kidnap Anton Keller was because of their ties with the second prince, but now that the second prince was giving them the cold shoulder, he was having second thoughts about opposing House Keller and House Silversword. Did I make a mistake? Darvin wobbled and suddenly collapsed to the ground. My lord. My lord, are you all right? The servants were scared when they saw this, and they immediately rushed to his side to support him. Darvin waved his hand. I am all right. Call our allies, I need to speak with them. Yes, my lord. I have to see this through the end no matter what happens. He thought with a fierce look. He had already made his decision. On the outskirts of Riverwake was a small struggling barony. It was the territory of the fallen Tyler household. They were once one of the most powerful families in the city, but things changed when the late family head fell into gambling addiction. He was eager for quick success, so an owner of a gambling business used the opportunity to seize the wealth of House Tyler. Their story was something that left many people saying that even a great household could fall at any time. At this moment, the current family head of House Tyler was having a conversation with one of the most notorious underground bosses of Copperglade, the leader of the Blood River Alliance. No one knew his name. He was like a comet that came out of nowhere. Old man, have you thought it through? I'm sure I was sincere with my offer. The leader of the Blood River Alliance wore a copper mask to hide his face. The family head of House Tyler sighed with a gloomy look. All right. I can give you the household and everything, but you must give me the money first. Liam was pleased with his response. Splendid. You have made a great choice. Ha ha ha. Chapter 249, To the Enemy Territory. In the next 3 days, House Harrison became even more aggressive. They no longer bothered to hide their motives, and they made it clear that they wanted to destroy House Keller thoroughly. They sent out their troops to seize control of House Keller's shops and storage facilities. They even captured and imprisoned the employees of those establishments. This greatly infuriated many people, but no one dared to voice their anger because they were afraid of offending a behemoth like House Harrison. At this moment, Anton Keller gathered his troops in an attempt to save the captured employees. My lord, you should think this through. It's obvious that this is a trap. Warwick warned Anton with a grave look. Anton stubbornly shook his head. I understand your concerns, Sir Warwick, but those people trusted me. How could I let them suffer at the hands of those bastards? I must go there even if it means sending myself over in exchange for the release of my people. The old man's words resonated deeply in everyone's hearts. The people of House Keller stared at him with reverence. This was the reason why they chose to follow this old man despite his common origins. Warwick let out a faint smile. He is just like his grandson. How do you expect to save those people with 100 troops? Don't tell me that you have already planned to exchange yourself from the start? Warwick sent him a deep look. The people of House Keller were shocked to hear this. They immediately voiced their disagreements. My lord, is this true? You shouldn't put yourself in danger, my lord. I'm sure our people will understand. My lord, your safety is more important. Let's think of another way to save them. Anton Keller remained firm in his decision. He shook his head and responded. I have made up my mind. We must depart at once. Some people tried to convince him, but Anton Keller stepped out of the mansion without hesitation. Everyone had no choice but to follow the old man. Outside the mansion were the soldiers of House Keller. There were 155 of them, a sizable number for a merchant family's army. There were also 3 elite knights and 12 knights. The rest were knight apprentices and ordinary warriors. Their army was quite formidable, but compared to House Harrison, they were still far weaker. Looking at the warriors standing before him, Anton Keller felt proud. These were the people he had trained for decades. Bring me my horse, he commanded with a flourish. He might not be a warrior, but he knew how to ride a horse. A moment later, a servant brought the old man's mount, which was a rare breed of steed that had mana in its veins. Although it wasn't a monster, it was still more powerful than ordinary horses. After putting on his battle armor, Anton Keller expertly climbed onto his horse. Just as he was about to issue the command to march, a voice drifted into his ears. My lord, please wait. Anton Keller turned his head and saw Warwick leading 100 warriors from House Silversword. We will follow you, but I don't plan on giving you to the enemies. Our job is to protect you, and we will do just that. Warwick sent the old man a deep look. If you truly want to save those people, then we can only do it using the most basic way. Anton Keller was shaken when he realized what he was talking about. You don't mean? That's right. We will save those people by force. Warwick's calm voice echoed. That is. Anton Keller frowned. Warwick's suggestion would lead to casualties, and it was something that he didn't wish to see. However, he also knew that Warwick wouldn't allow him to throw himself over to the enemy's side. Anton Keller silently ruminated about the situation. Including Sir Warwick's soldiers, we have more than 200 warriors on our side. This should be enough to hold back the enemies while we save those employees. The old man quickly formulated a plan, and after almost 10 minutes of silence, he finally opened his mouth. I have a plan. Let's talk. We marched to House Harrison's estate. Hearing this, Warwick nodded. Yes, my lord. With that, more than 250 warriors departed. The pedestrians immediately vacated the road when they saw the marching army. They could tell at a glance that a major battle was about to take place in Copperglade. They are warriors of House Keller. Are they finally planning to retaliate? Looks like there will be a fierce battle between both houses. Some of the residents expressed their worry, while others were excited to see both giants fight. That is the plan. What do you think, Sir Warwick? You can tell me your thoughts if you have a better suggestion. Anton knew that they couldn't win against House Harrison, so he didn't plan for an all-out brawl. Warwick became silent upon hearing the old man's plan. It was definitely the best strategy for them, but it also carried some risks. All right. We will try to hold them as long as we can, but we must send Sir Fredrin to save the captured employees. I have confidence in his abilities. Warwick voiced his opinion. House Keller's elite knights were not particularly strong. They had some name in Copperglade, but compared to Fredrin, they still had a long way to go. Anton Keller furrowed his eyebrows. He had seen Fredrin among Warwick's troops. The man had gained some fame after the Orc subjugation, and people even respectfully called him the Steel Bastion because of his formidable defensive abilities. If it's the famous Steel Bastion, then I can rest assured. Very well, let's do that. He gave his approval. In a few hours of marching, they finally caught a glimpse of House Harrison's estate from the distance. Everyone steeled their hearts as they approached the enemy territory. Chapter 250, The Powerful Catapults. They are waiting for us. Anton Keller muttered in a grim tone when he saw the warriors of House Harrison on top of the walls. He raised his hand to signal their troops to stop. Looking at the archers on top of the wall, Anton Keller frowned. It will be difficult for a siege. Just then, a heavily protected man appeared on top of the wall. It was Richard Harrison. "Old bastard Anton, what do you think you are doing by bringing your army in front of our estate?" Richard shouted, his voice echoing in everyone's ears. The people of House Keller were infuriated by his lack of respect, but Anton prevented them from saying anything. He couldn't see Richard's face from this distance, but he could sense the disdain in his voice. "Sir Warwick, please tell him what we have discussed earlier." The old man told Warwick. "Understood." Warwick nodded. He stepped forward and took a long, deep breath as he shouted. "I am Warwick Mason, a warrior of House Silversword. Release the people you captured and we will write off this enmity." His booming voice drifted over to the enemy side. The people on top of the walls were shaken when they heard that it was Warwick, but knowing that they also had Transcendence on their side, they soon relaxed. Meanwhile, Richard sneered. "Do you think we are afraid of House Silversword? If you want to save those people, then you must kill me first." Warwick and Anton already expected this kind of response. Warwick no longer wasted his energy to converse with him. He sent Anton a knowing look. Seeing this, the old man sighed and nodded. "Do it." After getting his approval, Warwick raised his hand and shouted, "Bring out the catapults." House Keller also invested in their military, and one of the items they purchased was the catapults. These weapons of war had been sitting in their storage for many years, and now, they would finally be put into use. The warriors pushed the huge catapults into position. There were 5 of these siege weapons, neatly placed in strategic locations. When Richard and the warriors of House Harrison saw these weapons of war, they were stunned. "Aim your arrows to those things. Do not let them shoot the boulders," Richard barked out with a serious look. "We underestimated them. Who would have thought that those bastards from House Keller actually possess such destructive weapons? Just where did they get those things?" Richard didn't expect the enemy to possess such formidable weapons. He immediately issued a series of commands to his subordinates. In the next moment, a rain of arrows descended from the sky. "Sue! Sue! Sue! Sue!" Seeing this, Warwick made a hand gesture as he shouted, "Shield bearers, move forward and raise your shields." 30 muscular warriors raised their shields to protect the operators of the catapults. The arrows fell upon them, but their sturdy shields managed to stop the arrows. With the protection from the shield bearers, the operators of the catapults were able to safely launch the boulders toward the enemy walls. Bang! 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 The huge boulders struck the 20-foot-tall walls. Some unlucky warriors turned into meat paste after being squashed by the boulders. A portion of the wall was also destroyed. Richard's face darkened. "Damn it. We need to destroy those catapults, but those damn shield bearers are making things difficult for us." Most of their arrows also failed to reach the enemy line because the catapults were positioned beyond their archers' range. Only the arrows released by their knight apprentices could reach them, but they couldn't break through the shield bearers' shields. While he was racking his brains on how to destroy the catapults, Warwick ordered the operators to release the second wave of attacks. In the next moment, 5 huge boulders flew overhead and came crushing toward the enemy walls. Bang! 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 The impact blasted the seemingly impregnable wall, and even the main gate was destroyed, making the warriors of House Harrison feel uneasy. Seeing this, Warwick raised his weapon and shouted, "Cavalry, charge with me. Knock your arrows and shoot anyone you see." The cavalrymen of House Silversword were trained in archery and swordsmanship. They were versatile warriors who had mastered numerous techniques related to warfare. Among the 100 warriors he brought from the household, half of them were cavalrymen. House Keller also had cavalrymen, but they were lacking in terms of versatility. Warwick pinned his hopes on his subordinates. Sue. 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 Arrows descended upon them, but Warwick and the knights blocked them to prevent casualties on their cavalrymen. Warwick's subordinates immediately retaliated, releasing their arrows to the enemies on top of the wall. We are almost there. Keep pushing. Warwick shouted while effortlessly blocking the arrows that came his way. With him at the forefront, they managed to close in with minimal casualties. However, just as they were about to rush through the destroyed main gate, enemies started pouring out. Enemy cavalry. Prepare for contact. Warwick shouted. He narrowed his eyes and looked at a certain figure. It was an old man holding a lance and a shield. Treston. Warwick exclaimed. He felt a bit nervous facing this renowned warrior, but there was also this strange feeling of excitement rising from deep within him. It was the desire to fight someone powerful. Without hesitation, Warwick urged his mount to speed up with a squeeze of his legs. He then quietly imbued mana into his body to protect himself from unexpected attacks. Upon gaining momentum, he raised his sword and brandished it with all his might, causing the air to twist and turn under his terrifying force. Whoosh! The target of his attack, Treston, frowned upon seeing this. He imbued mana into his left arm and raised his shield forward. He braced himself from the coming attack. Bang! Warwick's sword struck Treston's shield with great force that caused his mount to neigh in protest. The latter grunted and swung his lance in retaliation. Whoosh! Chapter 251, Treston vs. Warwick. Warwick lifted his sword, forcing Treston's lance to slide off on the blade of his sword. Shying. After deflecting the lance, Warwick used the residual force to swing his sword toward Treston. Whoosh! The old warrior frowned and pulled his head back, narrowly evading the attack that would have cut off his head. While the two transcendents were fighting, the two armies had already clashed. The fearsome collision of both forces caused the ground to tremble. The sound of blades clashing, the soldiers' cries, and even the horses' neighs echoed. Anton Keller watched the battle with a look of discomfort. Did I make the right choice? Seeing the soldiers die because of his decision made him feel uncomfortable. The guilt was gnawing at him. Aru, I was foolish. I made a rash decision. He regretted it, but there was no turning back anymore. Meanwhile, the battle between Treston and Warwick had become more intense. They had to abandon their mounts to bring out their fullest potential. The area around them had already become a place of ruin. It was a total disaster, but there was still no clear winner between them. How is this guy so powerful? Treston furrowed his eyebrows. He had remained invincible throughout his life and there had only been a handful of people who had defeated him. However, facing this newly ascended transcendent, he found it incredibly challenging. He realized at that moment that he was no longer the same warrior he used to be. He had become old and his body was no longer as powerful as it was. He didn't want to admit it, but the cold hard truth slapped him in the face. You are indeed powerful, Sir Treston. If I had fought with you in your prime, I wouldn't have lasted long. Warwick muttered as their weapons clashed for 100th time. Treston frowned upon hearing his words. He knew that his opponent wasn't mocking him, but it deeply hurt his pride as a warrior. Feeling furious, he put more force into his lance, imbuing more mana into it to deliver a powerful strike. Whoosh! A devastating blow struck Warwick's sword. The force behind the attack was so overwhelming that he had to use all his strength to prevent himself from being knocked away. His legs trembled under the tremendous pressure and the ground beneath his feet caved in. What kind of power is this? Warwick was stunned. He could barely block the lance from tearing him apart. Your name is Warwick, right? Your strength is not bad, but if you want to take my spot in the Estanian Dragon leaderboard, you still have a long way to go. Tristan shouted before he released a whipping kick that sent Warwick flying into the air. What happened? Warwick's mind was in a mess and it took him a few seconds to realize what had happened. I was arrogant. I thought I was already strong enough to fight someone like Sir Tristan, but it seems like I have underestimated his power. Before he fell to the ground, he twisted his body and awkwardly landed on his feet. He could feel a burning sensation in his chest. It was where Tristan had kicked him. He immediately used his mana to lessen the pain. Looking at the old warrior dressed in steel armor, Warwick revealed a trace of fear. Is this fear? He grinned nervously. My job here is only to buy time. I don't need to defeat him. I must hold on while Fredrin is saving those people. As he thought of this, he adjusted his fighting stance in preparation for his enemy's attack. Just then, Tristan's figure blurred. Whoosh! So fast. Warwick was startled. He quickly evaded to the side. He felt searing pain on his left shoulder which had been grazed by Tristan's lance. If I had been a little bit slower, it would have been cut in half. Don't blame me for this, Warwick. I don't want to kill you, but I can't disobey my lord's command. Tristan's indifferent voice drifted into his ears. Hearing this, Warwick felt a chill running down his spine. It wasn't a bluff. The old man was fully capable of killing him. Sir Tristan, why follow a despicable man like Darwin? He is only a bully who oppresses the poor and the weak. Warwick shouted in an attempt to throw off his enemy's mental state. Tristan snorted at his words. You know nothing. The old warrior stabbed out his lance. Whoosh! Warwick gritted his teeth and firmly held his sword as he deflected the attack. His hands bled after forcefully changing the trajectory of Tristan's lance. Damn it! He is too strong. One more of that attack and I might lose a hand. His face was covered with thick beads of sweat. While breathing heavily, he kept his eyes on Tristan, unwilling to take the old warrior off his sight. It was a good battle, but I must end this here, Tristan muttered as he pointed his lance to Warwick. Wait! Warwick raised his hand. He could only try to buy some time here no matter how embarrassing it was. Tristan raised an eyebrow. Do you have any last words? Warwick took a deep breath. He could die here and his next words would decide his death or his survival, so he had to choose what to say carefully. Sir Tristan, you have a family, right? Do you think offending House Silversword would end well for you guys? Let me tell you this. Warwick paused for a moment before he continued. A more formidable warrior is coming here, and the moment he arrives, it will be the end of House Harrison. That includes your family too. As soon as he uttered those words, a fearsome killing intent descended upon him. It was so intense that he felt like there was a hand grabbing him by the neck. It seems like I have to crush your skull before killing you. Tristan's furious voice echoed. Chapter 252, title at the end. Looking at the old warrior who was about to attack him, Warwick quickly shouted. Sir Tristan, think about your family. If you want them to survive, then you must listen to me. Before Tristan could respond, another voice echoed. Don't listen to him, Sir Tristan. That man is only deceiving you. Both transcendents turned their heads and saw a warrior on horseback approaching them. Lord Richard, what are you doing here? It's dangerous. Tristan frowned and gestured for Richard to leave. When Warwick heard the man's name, he narrowed his eyes. He didn't hesitate and made a quick move. He rushed toward Richard. My lord, be careful. Tristan's face fell upon seeing this. He promptly followed Warwick and threw his lance at him. Warwick sensed the danger and evaded to the side. Bang! The lance failed to hit him, but it gave Tristan enough time to catch up to Warwick. Just as Warwick was about to capture Richard, he saw a figure appear before him. It was the old warrior. Warwick raised his sword and swung it heavily. Whoosh! The old warrior immediately lifted his shield. Bang! The old man's feet slid off the ground, but he managed to block Warwick's attack. TSK. Warwick clicked his tongue. You have no honor as a warrior. Tristan glared at him. Warwick stared at him with a sneer. Old man, if you want to survive in this cruel world, sometimes you need to do things that you don't want to do. Don't let that foolish principle destroy your family. He added. Tristan frowned. He then sent Richard a deep look and shouted. You must leave, my lord. You staying here will only hold me back. Hearing this, Richard's face darkened. Sir Tristan, I am a proud warrior of House Harrison. I don't need your help. I can protect myself. He was an elite knight, a formidable one at that. Even among those in his realm, few could rival him. Tristan almost had the urge to punch this idiot's head. This guy had been spoiled by Darwin all his life, so he developed an arrogant personality. If he weren't the heir of House Harrison, Tristan would have already beaten him up. Shut your mouth, Richard. Stay out of my sight before I do it myself. He had been holding back his anger for a long time, but there was a limit to his patience. Richard was stunned. He didn't expect to hear this from the old warrior. He wanted to say something, but the words were stuck in his mouth. In the end, he could only shamefully look away from him and leave. Damn! How dare a servant disrespect me like this? Damn it! Veins protruded on Richard's face. He had never felt such shame before. Meanwhile, Warwick let out a condescending laugh after witnessing this scene. Is that the heir of your household? He has quite the character. Sarcasm was evident in his voice. Tristan stared at him coldly, unable to utter a retort. Lord Alaric hasn't even turned 20, but he is already an elite knight. In a decade, House Silversword will welcome another transcendent. With his talent, he might even advance further and reach the fabled mythical realm. Warwick proudly remarked. I'm running out of ideas here. What's taking Fredrin so long? While Warwick was using every means possible to buy time, another group had already infiltrated the estate of House Harrison. Is this map reliable? Fredrin asked as he looked at the sketchy-looking map that looked like it was drawn by a 10-year-old kid. Yes, sir. It doesn't look much, but it was drawn by one of the spies we sent to House Harrison. A warrior from House Keller responded with a nod. Hearing this, Fredrin had no choice but to follow the route drawn on the map. Sir, I think we are almost there. Look at that building. That should be the one we are looking for. Another warrior exclaimed. Fredrin followed the direction he was pointing and saw a building that looked like a storage facility. We really made it here by following this shady map. Fredrin was speechless, but he quickly observed the situation. Strange. He furrowed his eyebrows. Why would a building like that be left unguarded? Just then, a powerful aura suddenly burst out behind them. Sensing this, Fredrin unsheathed his sword and shouted. Enemies behind us. Prepare for battle. The warriors who had followed him immediately reacted upon hearing his words. They unsheathed their weapons and looked behind them. However, there was only one person. It was a middle-aged man with graying hair. He was holding a short sword as he approached them with steady footsteps. Just one man? Kill him. The warriors charged towards the man and brandished their weapons aggressively. Wait. There's something wrong with that man. Fredrin warned them, but it was already too late. He could sense an oppressive power from the man, one that was almost the same as Warwick. The middle-aged man smirked coldly and muttered. A bunch of fools. With a casual wave of his short sword, 3 warriors fell, their bodies chopped into several pieces. This time, the warriors finally realized that this was no ordinary individual, so they quickly retreated. You want to escape? It's too late for that. The middle-aged man pursued them like a ghost. It didn't even take him long to eliminate more than 10 warriors. He was about to kill the last one when a figure appeared and blocked his attack. Bang! Oh! He was surprised. He stared at Fredrin with a look of interest. He didn't expect that an elite knight could actually block his sword. Sir Fredrin. The man who had just escaped death was horrified. If it weren't for Fredrin, he would have been one of the corpses scattered on the ground. He was also an elite knight, but he couldn't even see the middle-aged man's sword. Meanwhile, Fredrin's expression darkened. You are a transcendent knight. The middle-aged man grinned at his words. Chapter 253, The Lunatic, Xavier Coldstone. You are quite sharp. That guy called you Fredrin. You must be the famous steel bastion of House Silversword. The middle-aged warrior chuckled. Fredrin's face was covered with sweat. It's just an empty title. He responded in a grim tone. Let's see if you are as sturdy as the rumors say. The middle-aged man suddenly charged at him and casually swung his sword. Seeing this, Fredrin imbued mana into his arms and lifted his shield to block the man's short sword. Clang! The impact made Fredrin's feet sink deeply to the ground, but he stood firmly, like an immovable wall. Oh. It seems like you have some strength. No wonder people call you the Steel Bastion. The middle-aged warrior nonchalantly said. Who are you? Fredrin looked at the man with a grave look. Just blocking that one attack made his arms numbed and it looked like the guy didn't even put much of his strength. The middle-aged man put on a look of surprise. Oh my. Look at my manners. He cleared his throat and dramatically introduced himself. I am Xavier Coldstone. Hearing this, Fredrin's eyes darkened. Damn. Why did it have to be this crazy guy? Xavier Coldstone was a member of House Coldstone, a barony in the northeast. He was supposed to be the first heir of the household, but due to his weird personality and strange habits, the family head was worried that he would cause a lot of trouble, so he removed Xavier from the heir candidates. Have you heard of me? Xavier grinned at him. He had the face of a middle-aged man, but the way he talked resembled that of a mischievous teenager. Before responding, Fredrin looked at the only survivor in the group and told him. Go and save those employees. I will take care of things here. The elite knight hesitated, but knowing that he would only be a hindrance, he nodded. Yes, sir. He then turned around and left in a hurry. Xavier didn't stop the man and just watched the scene with interest. Fredrin moved his gaze back to Xavier and finally responded. I have heard a lot about you, Lord Xavier. You are currently ranked 59th in the Estanian Dragon leaderboard. You are one of the strongest experts in the Empire, a warrior with unrivaled abilities. Xavier nodded, seemingly pleased by his words. I like you. Why don't you work for me? I can give you as much as the silver words are paying you. What do you think? Fredrin felt goosebumps all over his body upon sensing the other party's invasive gaze. Xavier's had unique preferences. He didn't distinguish between men and women. As long as he liked the person, he would do anything to get them. Fredrin shook his head. Unfortunately, I would have to decline your offer, my lord. I have already signed a contract with House Silversword. I also received more than just money from them, and it is something that I must repay. Xavier revealed a look of disappointment. Is that so? What a pity. He shook his head with a look of regret. In the next instant, his expression abruptly changed. His eyes turned cold and his mouth curved into a smirk. You can go and die then. Xavier suddenly disappeared and reappeared above Fredrin while swinging his sword with a manic look. Whoosh! So fast. Fredrin gritted his teeth as he lifted his shield above him. He took a deep breath and braced himself from the impact. Clang! His legs almost collapsed from the overwhelming weight behind the attack. The bones in his left arm almost snapped, so he had to imbue more mana to increase his durability. After he had blocked that attack, another one followed. Clang! Cracks appeared on the surface of his shield. If it weren't for his mana, his shield would have already crumbled from the impact. Oh my! You are so sturdy. I like you more and more. A depraved look appeared in Xavier's eyes, making Fredrin feel a chill in his heart. With a grunt, he pushed his shield to send Xavier away. He then retreated to a safe distance to gather his breath. This crazy lunatic wasn't even serious, but he almost snapped my arm. I can't defend forever. I must do something. Fredrin, stop being close-minded and follow me. You just don't know how amazing it feels to do it with a man. Xavier winked at him. I'm sorry, but I will never do it with a man. Fredrin felt sick just thinking about it. He even thought of committing suicide to save himself from Xavier's depravity. It looks like I have to use force. Anyway, I like it better that way. Xavier licked his lips and rushed towards him. Whoosh. Clang. 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 Fredrin did his best to block and deflect the other party's attack, but he soon found himself slowly losing his stamina and mana. Xavier's attacks became stronger as the battle dragged on. My shield is almost at its limit. Damn. Fredrin's expression fell. In a moment of desperation, he sent a flurry of stabs and slashes. Whoosh. 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 Whoa. Xavier wiped the blood on his neck, which came from a small cut. He licked the blood and sent Fredrin a sultry look as he said, "So you like it rough, huh? What a coincidence." Fredrin could no longer hold back his anger and lashed out. Damn it. Leave me alone, you bastard. Hearing this, Xavier's face contorted with fury. What did you say? Fredrin felt the sudden change in the atmosphere, but he couldn't care less. Just kill me. I have no interest in playing with your games. He shouted. Xavier snorted and imbued mana into his sword before he released an attack. He launched a scorching blade of fire that burned everything in its path. That sword. It's actually a relic. Fredrin wasted no time. He twisted his body and lifted his shield to the side in an attempt to deflect the fire blade. Chapter 254, The Despicable Richard. Fredrin's shield melted under the intense heat, so he had no choice but to abandon it. It actually burned my arm even though I covered myself with mana. Fredrin grimaced as he looked at the severe burns on his left arm. If he had been a second later, his arm would have melted from the heat. I must dodge that fire blade, he told himself as he warily glanced at the crazy lunatic standing a few meters away from him. As long as your face and that thing down there aren't destroyed, burning the rest of your body should be all right. Xavier coldly muttered as he approached him. Fredrin raised his sword and kept his eyes on Xavier while preparing for an attack. I can't die here just yet. While Fredrin was fighting for his life, the battle at the main gate of the estate was slowly reaching a conclusion. The warriors of House Harrison couldn't defend themselves against the well-organized attack of the enemies. The warriors of House Silversword in particular were so strong that they needed 3 people on the same level to defeat just one person. What the hell? Are these warriors really from that small territory? How did they train these people? Richard clutched his abdomen as he looked at the proud knight standing before him. What is your name? The knight stared coldly at him and responded. I am Owen. Remember it well. Author's note, in case you have forgotten, Owen briefly appeared as a newbie instructor. See Chapter 113 for reference. Richard thought hard, but he couldn't recall someone noteworthy with that name. He had already fought 4 knights in this battle. He had slain 2 of them and severely injured another, but this guy was different. If you think you can defeat me just because you managed to land a hit, then you are mistaken. Richard snorted. He didn't like the expression that his opponent was giving him. If we were in the same realm, I would have mopped the floor with you. Owen mockingly replied. You. His words enraged Richard. In a fit of anger, he launched himself forward and brandished his weapon with terrifying intensity. Whoosh. I have to end this battle quickly, Richard thought to himself. He had been fighting non-stop for almost an hour and his mana was already close to exhaustion. It wouldn't end well for him if the battle was prolonged. In the next instant, Owen led 7 warriors to clash with Richard. Richard used his superior realm to overpower them. In a few moves, he killed 3 of the 7 warriors. I need to kill the annoying bugs first. They are not powerful, but fighting multiple enemies at once is too physically draining. Thinking about this, Richard released a series of attacks. Whoosh! Whoosh! Clang! 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 2 more warriors fell under his blade. He had also injured Owen and the other 2, but it wasn't enough to kill them. Meanwhile, he had also received some cuts and bruises. Fatigue began to accumulate and he was slowly running out of mana. Just a little bit more. Richard imbued his remaining mana into his sword to deliver mighty strikes successively. This time, the 2 warriors finally fell, leaving Owen as the sole survivor. However, Richard wasn't unscathed. His left arm hung loosely after Owen had cut off a major tendon. On the other hand, Owen's chest was bleeding excessively. One could even see his bones from his wounds. Just as Richard was about to attack, he found himself unable to take a step. He looked down and saw that his right leg was bleeding. He also got me there? When did it happen? He was stunned. You just noticed? You were so focused on killing my comrades that you failed to detect my attacks. Owen's voice drifted into his ears. Now, it's time for you to die. Owen pounced at him and stabbed out his sword. Seeing this, Richard gritted his teeth and lifted his weapon. Clang! He managed to block Owen's first strike, but the latter didn't stop there. He released one strike after another. Whoosh! Whoosh! Clang! Clang! Damn! To think that I would be pushed back by a mere knight. Richard couldn't accept what was happening. Just then, he saw that Owen's sword was about to pierce his neck, so he pulled a nearby warrior and used him as a shield. KK. Am my lord? Richard stared at the dying man with no hint of remorse. Owen didn't expect his enemy to suddenly use his own subordinate to protect himself. It was a despicable move that caught him off guard. Richard saw this and took the opportunity to attack him. He swung his sword, leaving a deep wound that cut open Owen's chest. The latter fell to his knees, his insides bursting out. Ugh! Owen grabbed his internal organs and tried to push them back inside his body, but he realized that he couldn't muster the strength anymore. You have some strength, but you aren't ruthless enough. Richard's indifferent voice drifted over. Owen lifted his head and saw Richard limping towards him. Why you? He couldn't say the rest of his words as Richard cut off his head with a swing of his sword. Thud. Owen's headless body fell to the ground. Instructor Owen. Sir Owen. The warriors of House Silversword exclaimed in grief when they witnessed Owen's death. They angrily rushed towards Richard, hoping to avenge their instructor, but before they could even reach their target, a group of warriors stopped them. Don't let them get close. Protect Lord Richard. Quick. Bring Lord Richard out of here. A warrior of House Harrison grabbed the severely wounded Richard and carried him away. Stop him. Don't let them get away. We must avenge Sir Owen. A few warriors of House Silversword noticed this and quickly pursued the escaping enemy. Another fierce clash erupted because of this, and more warriors from both sides fell. The face of Anton Keller, who was watching the battle, turned unsightly. What have I done, Aru? Chapter 255, Xavier's Interest. What? Owen is dead? Warwick, who was fighting against Treston, lost his composure when he heard the commotion. Owen was a loyal warrior and friend. He treated him like a younger brother despite the huge difference in their status. His death filled him with grief and profound rage. I'm going to kill you all. Warwick's eyes turned bloodshot as he unleashed every last bit of his mana. His aura suddenly skyrocketed, which shocked Treston. Die. Veins protruded in Warwick's arms as he swung his main weapon, the double-bladed spear. Whoosh. A fearsome force was released and came crashing down upon Tristan. The old warrior furrowed his eyebrows. The power behind this attack had already surpassed his own. This man, overexerting himself like this. He didn't expect his opponent to reveal such devastating power at the last moment. With a serious look on his face, Tristan gathered his mana and imbued everything into his lance. I didn't want to use this lance's power, but you leave me with no choice. The old man muttered as he made a swiping motion. Whoosh! Bang! A violent shockwave erupted after their weapons clashed. Warwick grimaced from the impact and he had almost let go of his double-bladed spear. This power. Looking at his stunned face, Tristan said. To think that you can still block my lance with that garbage of a weapon. His lance was engraved with a vibration ability. He could make his weapon release a powerful vibration that increased his attack by almost 5-fold. It was also because of this weapon that he managed to cement himself as one of the top powerhouses in the Empire. Warwick looked down and noticed the cracks on his sword's blade. With its present state, it would be destroyed in a few more strikes. Although I didn't use the full extent of its ability, it's still impressive that you can block it unharmed. Now, try blocking this. After saying those words, Tristan charged at him and stabbed out his lance. Whoosh! I must dodge this attack. Warwick gritted his teeth and quickly moved his legs as he twisted his body. He somehow avoided the attack, but the power of vibration still struck him, making him cough a mouthful of blood. Cough. Insane. I managed to dodge, but the vibration still affected me. What kind of power is this? He clutched his shoulder while warily looking at Tristan. He had already unleashed all his mana to increase his physical abilities, but his strength still fell short compared to his opponent. Impressive. You're more durable than you look. Tristan remarked with a calm gaze. It would be a pity to kill you. I don't want the North to lose a capable warrior, so why don't you surrender, Sir Warwick? I am willing to forget all the words you said earlier as long as you admit defeat. The old warrior was still afraid of House Silversword's revenge, so he was willing to compromise. Warwick glanced at him in surprise. It seems like his family is still his top priority for him to make such a decision. He sent the old warrior a deep look. He then raised his hand and shouted. Everyone, retreat. Meanwhile, Fredrin was still fighting with Xavier. What is taking them so long? Is this really a trap? He looked around, searching for the employees who had been captured, but no matter how hard he tried, he still couldn't sense their presence. How dare you look away from me? Xavier's voice drifted into his ears. He instinctively jumped backwards while moving his eyes to his enemy. Xavier chased after him and released a flurry of stabs and slashes. Whoosh! Whoosh! Fredrin's face was full of sweat as he defended himself from the attacks. He was about to empty his mana, making things look grim for him. Just as he was about to surrender to his fate, he suddenly sensed a group of people coming out from the storage facility. He turned his head and saw the elite knight from before leading a bunch of ordinary people. Sir Fredrin, we need to leave quickly. There are people pursuing us. The elite knight shouted urgently. Hearing this, Fredrin immediately responded. You guys go and leave using the secret entrance. I will buy you some time to escape. The elite knight was unwilling to leave him behind, but for the sake of their mission, he nodded. Yes, sir. Do you think I will let you guys escape? A teasing voice echoed into everyone's ears. A figure suddenly appeared before the escaping employees, preventing them from taking another step. It was Xavier. He had a strange smile on his face that made everyone feel goosebumps all over their bodies. I will stop him. Now go. Fredrin suddenly appeared out of nowhere and attacked Xavier. Clang. Xavier clicked his tongue with a hint of annoyance. He had been lenient with Fredrin earlier because he found him interesting, but this guy was starting to get on his nerves with his stunts. Let's go. We can't let Sir Fredrin's sacrifice go in vain. The elite knight shouted at the shaking employees. Hearing this, they quickly rushed out of the place. Fredrin was relieved to see this. My job is done. Please forgive me, honey. I might not be able to see you again. He felt a wave of sadness when he thought about how his wife would have to take care of their child all by herself. Just when he thought that it would be his end, Xavier's sword suddenly stopped just a few centimeters from piercing his neck. You are an interesting man, Fredrin. You are actually willing to sacrifice yourself for the sake of those commoners. Xavier lowered his sword and stared at him with twinkling eyes. Seeing the other party's expression, Fredrin felt a chill. Kill me. I have no intention of playing your stupid games. He would rather die than let this weird man humiliate him. Xavier wasn't angered by his words. Instead, it only made him more attracted to Fredrin. You are coming with me. Those were the last words that Fredrin heard before he lost consciousness. Chapter 256, Rift. After knocking Fredrin unconscious, Xavier carried him and left with a broad grin on his face. On the other hand, the battle at the main gate of the estate had already come to an end with the retreat of House Silversword and House Keller. Looking at the disappearing enemies, Tristan sighed while shaking his head. Did I make the correct decision? Gather the wounded and have them treated immediately. He shouted to his men. Yes, sir. They managed to repel the enemies, but they had suffered numerous casualties. Many of their warriors died, including a few knights and even elite knights. Tristan didn't know if this could still be called their victory. While he was observing the destroyed walls, a warrior came to his side and asked, Sir, what should we do with the enemy corpses? Tristan frowned and thought for a moment before he replied. Gather them in one place and don't let anyone touch them. Hearing this, the warrior was surprised, but he still acknowledged the command with a salute. Yes, sir. Tristan looked at the corpses all over the place with a gloomy expression. I just hope that Lord Darwin will stop this meaningless battle. Only our warriors would suffer from this. Warwick didn't just arbitrarily make the decision to retreat. When Tristan suggested it, he coincidentally saw the signal from Fredrin's group. Just then, he saw Anton Keller approaching him on horseback. Sir Warwick. The old man's face was filled with guilt and remorse. Truthfully, Warwick resented the old man. They wouldn't have to fight if he had stayed in his mansion, but Warwick knew that he was also at fault. He had underestimated the enemy's power and it ended in tragedy. Many warriors died, including the warriors of House Silversword. Looking at the old man's face, he shook his head and waved his hand. Let's not talk about this for now. We are still in enemy territory, so we must return to the estate and prepare our defenses. Anton Keller saw the grief in Warwick's eyes. He wanted to say some words of comfort, but he was too embarrassed to say it. After all, he had made the decision to attack despite Warwick's warnings. All right. They headed back to Lanila where they regrouped with Fredrin's team. However, they were stunned when they saw that there was only one warrior who had returned. Warwick's heart dropped when he saw this and he quickly grabbed the only survivor in Fredrin's team. Where is Fredrin? Where is he? The elite knight was terrified by Warwick's gaze. With a trembling voice, he replied. Sir Fredrin. He stayed behind to buy us some time to escape. Warwick and the warriors of House Silversword couldn't believe their ears. Warwick subconsciously grabbed the man tighter and muttered with a blank look. How could this be? Fredrin. We encountered a transcendent knight during the rescue operation. He killed all the members of our team and I was only lucky enough to be saved by Sir Fredrin. The elite knight grimaced as he recalled that scene. Warwick frowned. He was aware that there were 3 transcendent knights helping House Harrison. Who was it? He asked with a cold look. Xavier Coldstone. Hearing this, the face of a middle-aged man wearing a strange smile appeared on his face. If it's him, there's a chance that Fredrin is still alive. I should wait for Sir Galliner's arrival before making a decision. With Fredrin's life and death uncertain, the group returned to the estate with grim faces. Upon returning, they immediately bolstered their defenses in case of enemy retaliation. When night came, Warwick finally received the casualty report. Sir, House Keller lost 57 of their warriors. 24 of them are heavily injured and the rest are lightly injured. On our side, we lost 28 warriors. 7 are heavily injured, while the rest have minor injuries. Warwick's face darkened upon hearing this. Owen, my friend, my brother. He clenched his fists while looking at the list of casualties. You may leave. He motioned to his subordinate. The man bowed and left without saying a word. Warwick slumped into his seat and covered his face with his palm. Unknowingly, tears slid down his face as he remembered the faces of those who had died. My comrades. In the clinic of House Harrison, Darwin went to visit his injured son along with the important members of the family. When he heard that his son was in critical condition, he immediately rushed to the clinic. Where is Richard? Where is my son? Darwin roared at the medical personnel as soon as he arrived. Lord Richard is still being treated, my lord. One of the medical personnel responded nervously. Where is he? Bring me to his room. Darwin shouted. You can't go there, my lord. The doctors and nurses might not be able to concentrate with you around. Please relax and have some faith in our medical personnel. Treston suddenly appeared. Seeing him, Darwin walked towards him and slapped him hard. Pa! My son was harmed because of you. If you had protected him well, he wouldn't have been hurt. Darwin vented his frustrations on the old warrior. Everyone was shocked to see this. They felt pity for the old warrior, but no one dared to speak up. Treston didn't even flinch after taking that slap. It didn't hurt him in the slightest, but he felt something within him crumble. He lowered his head and apologized. I was incompetent, my lord. It was indeed my fault. I will voluntarily step down from my position as the commander of the army to atone for my incompetence. He didn't wait for Darwin's response and left the clinic with heavy strides. Looking at the old warrior's disappearing figure, Darwin belatedly realized that he had overreacted. Wait! Sir Treston. He called out to the old warrior, but Treston didn't look back. Damn it. Darwin gritted his teeth and stormed inside the clinic to search for his son. Everyone felt a sense of unease all of a sudden. A rift has been formed between Darwin and Treston. Chapter 257, Xavier's Disgusting Acts. The next day, Darwin summoned all the highest-ranking warriors of the household, including the houses allied to them. He sat in the most prominent seat and swept his gaze to the gathered crowd. Everyone, we didn't anticipate the enemy's attack this time. We all thought that they would ignore the lives of those lowly employees, so we only left Lord Xavier to guard the prisoners. A long, boring speech followed, but everyone listened attentively for they could tell that the Viscount was furious. They had heard of his son's critical condition so they could understand his feelings. After a speech full of righteous indignation, Darwin finally revealed his true intentions for summoning everyone. Everyone, we must attack them now. We managed to force them to retreat yesterday and they are currently at their weakest since most of their warriors are injured. This is the perfect time to destroy House Keller for good and show His Highness our importance. When he mentioned the second prince, everyone furrowed their eyebrows. Who didn't want to be acquainted with the imperial family? My lord, we must stop this battle now. An aged voice echoed in the meeting hall. Everyone turned their gazes over and looked at the old warrior seated to Darwin's left. It was Treston. Darwin frowned at the old man's words. Sir Treston, those people harmed my son, the heir of the household. How can I take this lying down? Treston shook his head. All our actions have consequences. He paused and stared deeply at the Viscount before he continued. We took their people so they retaliated and rescued them. Lord Richard wouldn't have been injured if we hadn't captured those innocent workers. Hearing this, Darwin angrily slammed his hand on the table. Are you saying that it was my fault since I made the decision? Treston's expression remained calm as he replied. My lord, don't let greed cloud your judgment. The old warrior's words struck a nerve that made him snap in anger. Tristan, you have repeatedly questioned my decisions. Who do you think you are? Tristan sighed and shook his head. I am not questioning your decisions, my lord. I am only giving a suggestion based on our situation. Darvin was about to respond when a snickering sound interrupted their conversation. He was about to curse the person, but when he saw that it was Xavier, he held back his tongue. Do you have something to say, Lord Xavier? Darvin sternly glanced at him. Xavier grinned at the Viscount, looking completely relaxed and carefree. He was the only one in the hall who was unbothered by their situation. Lord Viscount, stop showing that ugly side of yours. It makes me sick. Everyone stared at him in surprise, unable to believe that he had uttered those words. They were unable to understand the meaning behind his words. Was he trying to provoke the Viscount, or did he just say those words to stop the argument from escalating? Darvin's mouth twitched. No one had spoken to him in such a manner before, but he couldn't even show his anger because the other party was no ordinary person. Pardon my manners, he coldly said. Xavier chuckled. That is all right. Your son almost died, so your reaction is understandable. Besides. He paused and revealed a depraved smile as he pulled the chains he was holding. I'm not against your idea of attacking them. Clang. Clang. The chains made clanging sounds and everyone subconsciously moved their eyes to the person whose neck was tied to the other end of the chains. But I want Warwick alive. Xavier's voice drifted into their ears, making them feel goosebumps all over their bodies. Darvin's fury dissipated upon hearing this. He nodded his head and laughed. Ha ha ha. Of course, Lord Xavier. As long as we fulfill our objectives, Warwick is all yours. He didn't even hesitate. This was just a minor matter in exchange for Xavier's help. Good. Xavier grinned, looking pleased with his response. You idiots. A sneering voice echoed in the hall. Surprised, everyone stared at the man tied in chains with incredulous gazes. The man's body was covered in bruises and cuts. He also had weird red marks on his neck, which everyone could already tell from a glance. From his wounds and the strange red marks on his neck, a wild scene appeared in everyone's mind. The thought of it almost made them puke the food they had for breakfast. If you think that you can capture Sir Warwick, then you are gravely mistaken. Fredrin stared coldly at Xavier and spat a mouthful of saliva filled with blood. His words made the people present frown. Xavier crossed his legs and pulled Fredrin closer to him. He stood up and propped Fredrin's chin. Did I tell you to speak? Or do you want me to punish you again like I did last night? Fredrin's face darkened when he recalled the terrible nightmare he had endured at the hands of this man. You will pay for this. Fredrin's eyes were filled with hatred. Oh my. That got me excited all of a sudden. Xavier grabbed Fredrin's face and gave him a forceful kiss. He then licked the latter's face and gave a resounding slap. Pa. Never speak when I don't tell you to. Xavier spoke in a harsh tone. Fredrin couldn't fight back since his mana was sealed. The slap sent him to the floor. He coughed heavily and puked in disgust. Everyone was disgusted by Xavier's actions, but no one dared to show it their faces. I apologize for the interruption, everyone. Xavier went back to his seat with an apologetic look. He then looked at Darvin and said, Please continue, Lord Viscount. I want to hear your plans. Haha. All right. Darvin nervously chuckled. The meeting resumed after that. Since Xavier had already expressed his agreement with Darvin's decision, no one dared to raise their opinions. They were afraid to end up like Fredrin, so they had no choice but to follow reluctantly. Chapter 258, Unprepared Defenses. Later that day, House Keller was still increasing the defenses around their estate. They also hired mercenaries to replace the warriors who had died in the recent battle. Everyone was busy with their tasks, and it was especially true for Warwick. He was overseeing the military training of the mercenaries they recruited. These guys are strong, but they don't have the discipline of a soldier. This was the problem of hiring mercenaries, but they had no choice given their situation. Suddenly, a warrior rushed to his side with an urgent look on his face. "Sir, bad news." Hearing this, Warwick frowned and looked at the warrior with a stern gaze. Noticing his dissatisfaction, the warrior stopped in front of him and immediately gave his report. "Sir, the enemies are coming. They have more than 500 soldiers." "What?" Warwick didn't expect them to make a move so soon. After gathering his thoughts, he waved his hand and shouted to the warriors. "Get your equipment ready and prepare for battle." The warriors and the mercenaries were stunned, but they quickly moved their feet. There was no time to waste and everyone hurried to equip their armor and weapons. Warwick jumped onto his horse and squeezed his legs, urging it to move. "We are not ready yet. Can we even survive until our reinforcements arrive?" he thought as he headed to the main gate to check the situation. They had already set up the catapults on top of the walls, but there were still many defensive constructions that were left unfinished. Warwick's expression worsened when he saw this, but he had to remain calm to avoid making his soldiers waver. The team responsible for operating the catapults came to him upon his arrival. "Sir, all the catapults are in place, but the ballistae are still not completed. The crenels and merlins have been repaired, but they are hastily made so they might not withstand if the enemies have catapults." Warwick nodded, his face looking grim. "Inform the workers to bring the heated oil on top of the walls and have them bring as many large stones as possible." He could only be resourceful here since they weren't fully prepared for a siege. This wasn't an ideal situation. He could only hope that reinforcements would come soon. "Yes, sir." While everyone was hastily preparing for the enemy's arrival, Warwick climbed on top of the wall. With his sharp eyesight, he could already see the enemies from the distance. Furthermore, he also sensed 4 formidable auras, including Treston. For transcendence? He clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. "We have over 200 warriors including the mercenaries we hired, but will this be enough to defend the unprepared estate?" Sweat trickled down his face as he tried to come up with a solution, but no ideas came to his mind. "Hurry up, Sir Galliner. Otherwise, you might have to see my corpse by the time you arrive." At this moment, the sound of battle horns echoed from the distance. This made the soldiers and the mercenaries behind the wall feel nervous. "Do not be afraid. As long as I am here, this wall will stand firm." Warwick's voice drifted into everyone's ears, easing the anxiety of the warriors. They looked up at the figure standing on top of the wall. He wore a new battle armor that made him look heroic. "Enemies are closing in, but we must never falter. Our reinforcements are coming and we only need to hold the enemies until they arrive." Warwick shouted, his back straight like that of an unbending sword. "Defend the estate. Kill the enemies." Someone from the crowd shouted, his words igniting everyone's morale. "Defend the castle. Kill the enemies." Warwick was relieved to see this. He then issued a series of commands. "Archers, into position. Cavalry, stand by and wait for my instructions. Melee units." As the enemy approached, everyone's heart raced. Warwick stood atop the wall, looking at the approaching army with a serious expression. "Catapults, ready." He shouted when the enemy was about to cross their catapult's range. The operators immediately loaded the huge stones and waited for his command to set them loose. In the next moment, Warwick's eyes turned cold as he waved his hand. "Release." At his signal, the operators released the huge stones toward the approaching army. Whoosh! 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 Just when the stones were about to hit their intended targets, 4 warriors suddenly appeared and destroyed them. Bang! 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 Seeing this, Warwick furrowed his eyebrows. "Don't stop. Release at will," he shouted to the operators. Suddenly, he noticed a detachment force of about 100 warriors charging towards the walls. "Archers, knock your arrows and wait for my signal." He immediately gave the command upon seeing this. Something is weird about those people. Warwick frowned as he looked at the detachment force. They were composed of infantry soldiers and they weren't even properly equipped. Most of them only wore leather armor. "Loose." He gave the command when the infantry unit stepped into their archers' range. "Sue. Sue. 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 Wait. Don't kill us. We are not soldiers. Ah. Help." The cries of the enemy infantry drifted over. Hearing their words, realization dawned on Warwick. Don't tell me those people are slaves. He gritted his teeth when he thought of this. "Sir, those people aren't soldiers. What should we do?" A warrior hesitantly asked him. Warwick was silent for a moment before he made a difficult decision. Kill them all. It was uncertain whether those people were truly slaves, so he could only be ruthless here. What a cunning move. The warriors were stunned by Warwick's command, but they still followed him. "Sue. Sue. Sue." The archers hardened their hearts as they released their arrows to the infantry unit down below. They were only lightly armed, so it didn't take long for them to collapse under the heavy barrage of arrows. Soon, the ground beneath the walls of the main gate was dyed red. Chapter 259, Breached the Main Gate. Seeing his men wavering at the death of those men, Warwick frowned. So this was their intention from the start. By using those slaves, they want to weaken the hearts of my soldiers to lower our fighting spirit. With them being significantly outnumbered, it wasn't a good thing. If the soldiers' morale were low, they wouldn't be able to effectively defend the walls. Thinking about this, Warwick shouted at his men. "We are at war. You must not feel pity for our enemies. It was my decision to kill those men. You don't need to blame yourselves. I will take full responsibility for everything, so fight without worry." The warriors were invigorated by his words. At this moment, the enemy sent another infantry unit. This time, there were about 200 of them. The only difference was that half of them were fully equipped and they also carried a gate-destroying machine. "Aim your arrows at the people carrying the gate-destroying machine," Warwick barked out. "Yes, sir." "Sue. Sue. Sue." Hundreds of arrows descended from the sky, striking at the enemies with merciless force. Many enemy warriors died after being struck by the arrows, but they didn't stop their relentless charge. The enemy infantry unit protected the gate, destroying the machine with great effort. Some of them even used their own bodies to defend the people who were carrying this huge machine. "We are almost there. Don't stop running," shouted the leader of the unit, a man fully geared in steel armor. He stood at the forefront, parrying the arrows released upon them using his spear. With a casual wave of his spear, the dozens of arrows aimed at him were destroyed. Meanwhile, atop the walls, Warwick also noticed this powerful warrior. They sent an elite knight to lead the second detachment force, but half of their unit is still composed of non-warriors. How ruthless of them to use those people as meat shields. Warwick waved his hand and gave another command. When they are right beneath the wall, pour the heated oil and release a burning arrow to burn them. This was a cruel decision to make, but Warwick had no choice. He couldn't afford to be merciful given their situation. "Aru, I will carry all the sins committed by my subordinates. Please forgive them." He silently prayed in his heart after giving the command. In the next moment, the warriors on top of the wall poured the heated oil onto the enemies beneath them. "Ah! Ah!" Screams of anguish echoed. "Bear with it. We are here to fulfill our mission. Destroy the gate." The leader of the infantry unit shouted to his men. He also fell victim to the scalding hot oil, but he lessened the degree of the burns by using his mana. Still suffering from the burns, the infantry unit grimaced as they carried the gate-destroying machine in front of the main gate. Do it! The leader shouted while protecting the machine from being destroyed. Seeing their leader's efforts, they didn't hesitate any longer. They activated the machine by injecting their mana into it. Soon, the inscriptions on the surface of the machine lit up. Suddenly, dozens of burning arrows shot at them. Sue! 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 The leader of the infantry unit narrowed his eyes. He imbued mana into his spear and brandished it with incredible speed to deflect the arrows. With his protection, no arrow was able to land on the machine. Watch out! Someone shouted in alarm. Everyone lifted their heads and saw a huge number of large stones descending upon them. Don't be afraid. I'm here. The leader of the infantry unit snorted. He targeted the stones aimed at the machine, turning them into small fragments with a series of stabs from his spear. With nothing stopping the machine, it soon fired a beam of mana at the main gate. Boom! A loud explosion rang out, shaking everyone's ears. After the cloud of dust subsided, they saw a huge hole in the gates which was big enough for a few men to enter at once. The gates have been breached. Emergency! The gates have been breached. Warwick received the grave report from his subordinates. With a dark expression, Warwick issued a command. Cavalry, prepare to engage with intruders. Yes, sir. Warwick had already anticipated this. The main gate of the estate wasn't engraved with a defensive ability, so he knew that it wouldn't last for long. He turned his attention to the enemy's main army and noticed that they had finally made their move. Don't let their main army get close so easily. Release your arrows at will. He shouted. He then passed the authority to command to an elite knight of House Keller. Sir, where are you going? The man asked in surprise after getting Warwick's instruction. Warwick tapped his shoulder and replied. I need to command the cavalry unit. Stay here and try your best to eliminate as many enemies as you can. Hearing this, the elite knight nodded. I will do my best, sir. Warwick jumped down from the wall and climbed onto his horse. He lifted his double-bladed spear and shouted. The enemies are upon us. Lift your weapons and prepare to charge with me. The cavalry unit unsheathed their weapons after hearing his words. Their faces were grim as they nervously looked at the destroyed main gate. A moment later, the fierce shouts of the enemies drifted into their ears as they poured in from the destroyed gates. Follow me to kill the enemies. Warwick squeezed his legs, making his horse neigh in protest before it sprinted forward with great momentum. The cavalry unit followed his charge as they shouted their battle cries. An intense battle broke out between the cavalry unit and the enemy infantry, who were the first to storm inside the estate. Clang! Clang! Bang! Bang! The enemy infantry unit was already a spent force, so they quickly collapsed under the hands of the cavalry unit's furious attacks. However, a small group of the infantry unit survived the assault. They were composed of less than 20 men, with the elite knight from earlier taking command. I must kill those people. With fierce eyes, Warwick urged his mount to charge towards the small group. Chapter 260, Warwick against 4 Transcendents. The elite knight felt a heavy and oppressive aura locking in on him, making his heart drop. This aura must be from that person. He turned his head at the warrior charging at them with unstoppable force. He wielded a double-bladed spear, the weapon used by the famous Warwick. It's him. Warwick. The elite knight exclaimed. Focus your attacks on that person. He commanded his men. He rushed forward, leading his men in an attempt to stop Warwick. However, do you think a mere elite knight can stop me? Warwick's indifferent voice drifted into his ears. In the next moment, a terrifying power was unleashed upon them, making their hearts palpitate with fear. Bang! With a swing of his double-bladed spear, Warwick effortlessly killed the elite knight's small team. Looking at the corpses of his comrades, the elite knight was filled with disbelief. Is there really that much of a difference between our strengths? He lifted his severely wounded body while looking at Warwick's formidable figure. With a bleak smile, he said, "You might be powerful, but can you stop 4 transcendent knights by yourself?" Warwick remained unperturbed by his words. He swung his double-bladed spear and ended the man's life. Kich. A powerful elite knight fell just like that. Warwick flicked his weapon and looked at the destroyed gates with a grim look. He could sense that the enemy's main army was about to enter. The enemy's main army is about to enter. Rally behind me and form in defensive formation, he shouted. Hearing his commands, the warriors of House Silversword and House Keller quickly moved into formation. The mercenaries weren't used to these formations, so they moved sloppily. Warwick noticed this, but there was no time to correct them. He could only pray that those hired warriors wouldn't slow them down during the battle. Soon, the ground trembled and the partially destroyed gates were blasted into smithereens. More enemies entered, rushing in with ferocious expressions. Warwick saw a familiar figure leading the enemies. It was Tristan, the old warrior he had fought recently. Seeing him, Warwick's face fell. Just then, he sensed another powerful aura, but it didn't stop there. 2 more transcendents appeared. Warwick tightly gripped his weapon while looking at the 4 figures. "Warwick, you should surrender. There is no need for you to fight a losing battle." Tristan's voice echoed. Hearing this, Warwick took a deep breath. "Sir Tristan, I am a warrior of House Silversword and I have been tasked to protect this estate." His eyes suddenly turned cold as he added, "You won't be able to go through this passage without killing me." Tristan sighed and shook his head. "How foolish, but I can't blame him. He is only trying to fulfill his task just like me. However, your ending won't be good if you fall into the hands of that person." Thinking about this, he moved his gaze toward a middle-aged man who was holding a sword. It was Xavier Coldstone. "I will retire after this battle is over. I'm tired of these meaningless battles." While he was immersed in his thoughts, a weird voice suddenly drifted over. "So you are Sir Warwick. You are quite the looker, aren't you?" Warwick raised an eyebrow as he looked at the man holding a short sword. "That insignia. Is he from House Coldstone? Then he must be Xavier Coldstone. Where is Fredrin?" He stared deeply at Xavier. "I don't understand what you are talking about," Xavier responded with a snicker. Warwick was furious and his aura leaked out because of his agitation. "In that case, I will force it out of your mouth," he bellowed as he urged his mount to charge. Xavier grinned when he saw this. With a depraved look, he shouted, "Warwick is mine. No one must interfere." Tristan frowned at his words, while the other 2 transcendents hesitated. "What should we do, Sir Tristan?" one of the 2 transcendents asked. The old warrior furrowed his eyebrows. "We must kill Warwick." "But what about Sir Xavier?" Tristan snorted in response. "I will deal with him. This is the only thing I can do for you, Warwick. I might as well kill you than let you suffer in the hands of that bastard. Let's go." Tristan yelled as he charged forward. The 2 transcendents no longer hesitated and followed him. At this moment, Xavier and Warwick clashed, causing a storm of dust around them. Bang! When their weapons clashed, Xavier realized that he had severely underestimated his opponent's strength. This strength. Warwick sent him flying into the air after that one clash. He then crashed into the wall with a bang. "Warwick, don't hate me for this." Tristan suddenly appeared in front of him and swung his weapon with immense force. Whoosh! Warwick frowned. He quickly lifted his sword to block his attack. Clang! A loud clang echoed as their weapons collided. He is really different. Xavier's power is nothing compared to this man. Warwick gritted his teeth as he imbued more mana into his arms and his sword. "We're here to support you, Sir Tristan." The 2 transcendents finally appeared and attacked Warwick in separate directions. Warwick felt an unprecedented amount of pressure from facing the simultaneous attacks of these transcendents. He pushed himself back to evade the two transcendents. Bang! Bang! After their attacks had missed, they relentlessly pursued Warwick and released a series of powerful strikes that caused the ground to shake. Damn it! I can't hold on for too long. Injuries appeared on Warwick's body and they slowly accumulated as the battle progressed. He is mine. A cold voice echoed above him. Warwick lifted his head and saw Xavier descending while brandishing his sword. He immediately twisted his body, avoiding the attack by a hair's breadth. Bang! Warwick looked at the four transcendents before him and felt a wave of fatigue. He tried his best to hold them back, but he had reached the limits of his stamina. I can't die just yet. A burst of fearsome power erupted from him as he released his remaining mana. Come at me.